Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Why, hello there.
Please do subscribe both channels. We have Evolutionary Energy Arts, where we just put one up that says, was that an EGG? Anunnaki delegation from Mars? SpaceX? Or is somebody just happy to see us?
I know. I mean, they've thrown out their reasoning about who and what it is. So
Absolutely, yeah. Now they got the perfect cover story for everything. It's just SpaceX. But, as Cindy was just sharing with me, all this has been planned out so many decades, so many centuries, perhaps, maybe even millennia before it actually happened.
I know. And before this, they always had Superman to blame everything on.
Yes, or just, God is mad at us.
Yes.
So, that's why. Both channels, EEARTS and Evolutionary, each one does have unique videos. We do want to thank our Patreons. We couldn't do it without you guys. Isn't that curious? I mean, exactly the same shape you see they saw back in 1400s in the sky. They knew there were people up in there.
No, that's SpaceX back then. I'm sure of it.
Well, Elon might have been around in a different incarnation, absolutely. And also on Ko-Fi, where you could do a one-time donation to help the channel, or also monthly support, just like Patreon. So as we see, Hurricane Fiona was a record breaker for Canada in many ways. You see actual houses being dragged out to sea. And, the thing that hits you is it's just something that is not typical for Canada.
No, I mean, that looks really devastating. Let's please send our good vibes to all of these people who obviously need it.
Yeah, state of emergency underway, toppled structures. You got more than 500,000 residents without power right now. And as we've said, literally many homes just totally swept away by the waves. And you can see, obviously, there's massive flooding going on as well. Yeah, this actually hit with 80-mile-an-hour winds. So, definitely hurricane strength, very, very powerful, very unusual, but there's no shortage of unusual things in these times.
Oh, no, that's really, really sad right there.
Yeah, 470,000 without power. And you see Fiona made landfall in Nova Scotia as the deepest low-pressure system to hit Canada on record. All sorts of records are being broken. And again, this is from The Guardian. There's all sorts of links here to see the damage that's been done. There's just something that makes it, to me, a lot scarier when you know the water is cold.
I know. I mean, you really can't move if you're in cold water. You just literally freeze.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was a kid, I was swimming in Cape Cod, and I went quite a ways out, a little too far out, and I was in water that was like 50 degrees for quite a while, body surfing, and then, things started to shut down, and it was a challenge to make it back in. It actually kind of scared me, and I was really sending out prayers then that I would make it in, and I did. But it's, again, the cold water and, a tropical type system. Wow. It's just, again, in these times, we really can't be surprised anymore at almost anything that we see.
No, and I wouldn't have a house on that area anyway. Burr.
Yeah, she doesn't do well with the cold, and there's a lot of people that love the cold. We were talking to one of our regulars the other day, and I was saying, hey, we're going to get a break. We got 2 more days of 95, and then we're down into the mid-80s. And he was like, well, that's about 30 degrees too much for me. Everybody has their own likes and dislikes. And so Ian is Tropical Storm Ian now going to be Hurricane Ian. Actually, by the time you listen to this, it might be Hurricane Ian. You never know. Again, this is the track that it looks like Ian is going to take. And so Ian can hit Cuba as a Category 2 up to a Category 4 storm. So Cuba, hang in there and watch out. Make your preparations. After that, it's going to come out into the Gulf. It appears to be heading for the Panhandle, anywhere basically Gulf side and Atlantic side too, as you could see. The winds in Jacksonville still expect to be probably 90 to 100 miles an hour. Of course, this could shift. You just don't know. There's so much technology out there in play. I would still be alerted to this storm even if I was over in Texas. Absolutely. As you see the computer models, they are showing that they are in agreement for the most part that this looks like it's going to be a Florida storm. Of course, Alabama, Georgia, Carolinas, up into Virginia's. Keep your eyes out.
Most definitely.
And again, here we can see from AccuWeather. This is looking at peak wind gusts. Definitely one not to be ignored. And over here in the Philippines, they're on red alert as Super Typhoon Noru roars in. It has been a relatively quiet Atlantic season, but it only takes a couple big ones to change perception. But over here in the Pacific, it's been fairly active. And so, again, send your prayers out for these people as this storm has 124 mile an hour winds and is roaring in right now. So again, this is another area of concern.
It's definitely something that, is very concerning. So I really want to send our energy out there because that's what we have. We have that to offer readily. So really, let's use it.
Floods turn deadly in New South Wales, Australia, 14 inches of rain in 2 days' time. That's a lot of water, and we've had a lot of flooding in the land down under. We've also had periods of drought in some areas, and people have lost their lives being swept away, as we've seen countless times, cars being caught in these unexpected floods. So again, prayers go out. And then over here in Nigeria, also massive floods underway. All this is adding to the global food issue, which is building. Ravaging floods wreaking havoc in different communities in Jigawa State. Over 100 lives lost, 100,000 Nigerians displaced due to the flooding. And then guess what this is? This is in France. This is as it says, the manufactured food crisis rolls on. The world's largest fresh produce market's going up in flames right now.
Oh my man! I mean, it's so endless.
It never stops. Of course, how could we think all this is just a series of coincidences? I mean, how could you possibly think there's nothing to see here?
Because I guess this has happened in the past so many times where they do this thing to us, and then they just assume that we're going to think, oh, it's one huge coincidence and all of this is such a big accident and oh, how terrible. That's what they think of us.
Accidents. Yeah. Accidents. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. There's been too many disasters related to food production and, all of a sudden, the climate change issue. Yeah, we got to cull all these cows. Let's also confiscate farms. Let's pay people to not produce food. Let's pay people to retire early from the food production. Let's give them GMO seeds that can't reproduce. People warned saying, those get out there, they could end up causing organic or traditional or heirloom, however you want to term it, seeds to start to not produce, and we've experienced that firsthand. I mean, it seems like the last batch of seeds that we've gotten, hasn't been typical. A lot of things will flower and bloom, but then they just don't fruit. And then, of course, where are all the bees gone? I mean, put all this together, is it really just a series of unexplained coincidences?
And we've had some very near and dear friends to us too plant seeds, and then the only thing that came up and out of that was weeds.
And then, people were up in arms about the FIVEG towers that were going up because you know what? It actually came out from the military. Well, the internet was first something that was, again, developed in the military. And, this is all part of this. Well, it's a war on humanity and it's a war on the planet. So again, you got to get back to facing the reality that, can these people really be from here? The ones that are in control, how could they treat the planet the way they do if they truly are human per se? How could they treat other humans in such an inhumane way and in such an inhumane system that literally acts like a virus or a cancer upon the planet? Well, the fact that maybe they're ultimately not from here as far as the real controllers, and they're just utilizing the planet for its resources, that really would make sense, wouldn't it?
Sure would.
Absolutely. As we watch more fresh, organic food going up in flames. Meanwhile, London banks preparing for possible blackouts. Banking and financial firms in London are closely studying and updating contingency electricity supply plans to protect themselves and their customers in case of power outages hitting the UK this winter. And so what we have gotten is that there's going to be disruptions. There's going to be disruptions of service. There's going to be disruptions to our lives. There's going to be disruptions as if, again, we might have funds in the bank but not be able to access them for different reasons. Maybe you don't have the carbon credits once the system gets in place. You might need to buy a new zero-turn lawnmower because you got 10 acres that, you're tending to. And nope, why? Why can't I buy it? I got 200,000 in the bank. Well, because you don't have the carbon credits. This is the type of world that we're heading into. Yes, you cannot buy or sell. And again, it's all right out there. Europe's energy crisis will not be a one winter story. Oh, okay. So we don't have to just struggle through this year. You're saying this is going to keep going on? Yeah, it's going to keep going on until they implement the system of absolute total control. So the whole illusion of us, actually having freedom of choice in so many ways. Oh, you don't like the way things are going? Well, just wait, wait a couple years. There's going to be another chance to put somebody new in. But it doesn't matter. The old boss is the same as the new boss, and the new boss is the same as the old boss, because they all work for the control system. They wouldn't be a choice if they were truly independent. You wouldn't get them as a choice.
Well, no, I mean they fund each other. All of these political processes that they do are funded to the hilt. I mean, they never lack of anything.
So Amrita Sen, founder and director of research at Energy Aspects, told Bloomberg Television, "This is not a one winter story. Let's just make it very, very clear." Ooh, okay. So in other words, it's going to be food, fuel, or perhaps neither for people. And that's really scary. That is really scary. Again, I did see somebody make a statement that kind of felt a little true. And this statement was regarding a friend that just became one of those 87,000 new IRS agents. And the training that they did receive or are starting to receive, that part of their job, these new IRS agents, is going to be tracking down people that are not using the system. Tracking down people that maybe are looking to barter and trade. Yeah, so you can't bypass the system. And that makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, tracking down people. Just think of prohibition, right, in the 1920s. That was an ugly time in so many ways. And, Cindy and I are pretty much teetotalers. But still, it should be an option for people to decide what they want to do with themselves. Yet, the government then said, no alcohol and even poisoned. It's officially recognized that there were cases of poisoning alcohol, which did have detrimental effects on certain people's health, including leaving this realm. And these things, again, have been uncovered years later. Well, tracking down, that was a lot of jobs that were created for people to track down people that were, drinking these speakeasies. Shh, don't tell anybody. I know a guy over here. Well, looking at this day and age, it'll be like, hey, don't tell anybody, but I know a guy that will trade you. He's got tons of hens. He's got eggs. He's got fresh milk. He'll take jewelry. He'll take tools. He'll take whatever. There'll be people that try to beat the system. This is part of how they're going to try to crack down on that. 87,000, you're doubling the size to go after a handful of billionaires and millionaires. You guys just lie too much.
And then they put people in a position where they have to tattle on each other yet again. And that's where we can make our decisions to decide not to tattle on one another. Look at the different layers of control that there is, and we got to peel those away like an onion.
So this tree in Chile, Gran Abuelo, could be the world's oldest living tree, and its estimated age of 5,484 years, 600 years older than Methuselah in California. I wonder what this tree has seen. I wonder if this tree remembers a time when the gods actually walked amongst us. And of course, again, when we're talking about gods, we're talking about extraterrestrial, interdimensional beings of different densities, as different ones appear to us at different times to be physical. But we could get along. People could learn so much from animals. We could all get along. If there is a will, there is a way. A totally disjointed, perhaps ill-conceived family could happen. Again, we could learn so much from the animals.
I know. I mean, they just use that most basic of instincts and care about one another. And I do believe our pets and other animals are definitely going through an evolution stage themselves, and they know way more than we give them credit for.
Yeah, again, we've shared lately, and I just kind of wanted to share it again. As far as the individual soul goes, the soul experiences life in many different vehicles, and the bodies are just vehicles. So when we look at this little kitty cat, it could be that this little kitty cat had a life as a deer at some point in time. Maybe the pup had a life as a kitty. Maybe, the deer will have a life as one of the two, or as a human even in the future. Again, transmigration of souls is something that's recognized in many traditions, as we do migrate from one vehicle to another in order to have new, unique experiences.
Right, so make sure that you're really, really good to your pets, because I have heard in Native American stories that it's our pets and the animals that we work with in this life that allow us to cross that rainbow bridge.
Absolutely. May you guys be blessed by the creator of this universe and all the benevolent beings. Keep sharing your love with the world, regardless of the conditions that we find ourselves in. Namaste.
Namaste.